I'm having a great day. Are you having a great day? I hope you are. If you aren't, you need to stick around. Welcome to your Tuesday Takeover, where we lift your life and your level of leadership. Today, we're going to continue what we taught in our first session together. We've been talking about how to develop strong unity, team unity, that equals great productivity. Well, today, I want to teach you how to do that. And so, in our first session together, we talked about creating clarity within the vision, and I gave you some very important keys. But in today's lesson, I want to talk to you about culture. Culture. Every organization that I speak in, whether it's in churches, nonprofits, or it's in corporate settings, all of them battle the exact same thing with their team. And inevitably, when I go into these organizations and I sit down with them, I discover in many of them they have very toxic cultures. So for the next few minutes, I want you to lean in, because I'm going to teach you how to develop a great culture in your organization. People say all the time, culture eats vision for lunch every single day. And it is really true. So, how do you do that? How do you develop a great culture? Well, here's what you do. You emphasize your culture over task. Now, all of you know that I'm a pastor by trade, and even though I do other things, here's what I've learned in every place that I go, secular or Christian, every place I go, they have the same problem. They go through leadership like water because they have a toxic culture. And I want to tell you today that I do not care how good of a system you think you have. If it is toxic, you will lose leaders left and right, because a toxic culture is always destructive, even to the greatest teams. You can have top-notch, first-class, grade A, creme de la creme leadership, but they won't stick around very long because they cannot tolerate a toxic culture. You know, Jesus makes this statement. He says, by this, men will know that you're my disciples, that you have love one for another. I want you to notice, even Jesus said in the church world, you won't be known by your evangelistic efforts, you won't be known by your missional efforts, you won't be known by helping the poor. How you're going to be known is by the culture that you have within the Christian community, that you love one another. It is that exact same way. I don't care what area of leadership that you're in. You have to emphasize your culture over your task. Now here is the $1 million question. How do you do that? How do you build a healthy culture? I'm going to give you some very quick points, and this is going to lift your life to a whole nother level. Number one, here's what I want you to do. I want you to honor each other. Teach this to your team. Start out with your key players and your team leaders, with your staff. Insist on a culture of honor, a place where life is spoken and negativity is not tolerated. Make sure that what you do is create a system that doesn't undercut the leaders within your organization all the time, creating this division amongst your team, because that bleeds from the head down, and that will go down all the way from the top to the very bottom of your organization. So what I want you to do is I want you to take time and teach your people about honor and what honor means and how that plays out in everyday life. All right? Now, I want to remind you that your greatest leaders aren't necessarily sitting at your staff table, nor are they sitting in your boardroom. Many times your greatest leaders are sitting amongst a congregation in a church setting, or sitting within the workforce in a corporate setting. And they are working in very toxic cultures, but they won't say anything because they got to have a paycheck. And so guys, make sure that you address the issue of dishonor. Here's what I teach my team. You always have a right to disagree, but you never have a right to dishonor. Honor is a currency that will buy you anything that you want in life. So teach them how to always sow the seed of honor. Here's the second way to build a great culture. I want you to tell your team and teach them how to build relationships. The whole world works on relationship. In fact, let me just tell you, every miracle that I've ever seen, that I've ever experienced in my personal journey has come through a very key relationship. Work is easier when everybody likes each other. And so I just want to encourage you, teach them about building relationships. Now, when it comes to building relationships, people have to feel like that you're not using them to accomplish a goal or try to get to an end game. There's nothing wrong with sharing vision and moving everybody from point A to point B. But if they feel manipulated through the process, they'll disconnect and you'll lose great leaders, and eventually you'll lose other people that they lead. And so, as you teach everybody to honor each other, you also have to teach on the value of relationship and teach them about investing in people and what that really means, and spell it out in detail what it looks like. Because we live in the most fragmented, disconnected culture in the history of our world. They're more connected on social devices, but they're less connected interrelationally. And it is very destructive to team unity, and it will eventually bleed into your productivity. All right, here's the third key of building a great culture. What I want you to do is I want you to teach them to encourage over criticize. Encourage. You know, everybody has negative Nancys that always try to bring something to their team. They always have something to complain about. So here's what I teach my team. Don't bring me a problem without also bringing me a solution. And I don't allow my team to criticize people who are sitting at that staff table with them, nor do I allow them to criticize people that are under their leadership. That is a no-no. I have a rule. Take your drama to your mama. You're not going to bring that in my organization. And so you have to teach your people to encourage over criticize. Now, that's really hard to do sometimes in a corporation because everybody always focuses on the negative. We're always trying to fix a problem. That's what we do. That's what leaders are created to do. But the truth of the matter is, if you'll focus more on your wins and your successes and then work on your problems behind the scenes, most of the time it'll take care of itself. And so I need you to teach your team to use words of encouragement. Hey, if you're the leader of an organization, even the leader of a church, do what I do. If one of my team members has a big win, we celebrate it. And a lot of times I'll give them cash money and say, hey, go out and have a special night, a special dinner on me. You did a great job. And we celebrate our wins. Now, we evaluate our losses. We celebrate our wins. And I have a rule. I never rebuke publicly. I never criticize publicly. If I have a criticism, it's always privately between one another. This stuff is so good, I hope you're writing it down. Let me give you the fourth and the final key of building great team unity. I want to encourage you, even if you work in a secular environment, if you can, create a time of prayer together. When people pray together, when your team comes together and seeks the Lord and pray, then there is naturally a spiritual and an emotional bond that takes root within them. And so make sure that your team prays together. All right, let me give you one final thought and about creating the right kind of culture, and I hope all of this information is helping you tremendously. Here's your final thought for the day. Culture isn't what we say, it's what we tolerate. It's not what we say, it's what we tolerate. I want to emphasize, leader, hear me. You can bark orders all day long. You can tell people what to do. You can even give them great instructions. And you can teach them honoring each other, building relationships, and all the things I just taught you now. But at the end of the day, if you tolerate something that is anti your culture, you're never going to have the right culture. So culture is not what you say. It is what you tolerate. So make sure you don't tolerate anything that works against your team unity and their productivity. Well, this has been your Takeover Tuesday. Again, thank you so much for joining me. If you love stuff like this, if this is helping you, if this is a blessing to you, do me a favor, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Make sure to hit that notification bell, and whatever you do, I dare you to share this with 5 other leaders who need to lift their life and lift their level of leadership together. God bless you guys. We'll see you next Tuesday.